The Jovian Frontier. Chapter 1, The Deep Dive. The observation deck of Research Station Prometheus hummed with the low-frequency vibrations that had become as familiar as breathing to Dr. Amelia Holmes. Through the reinforced titanium glass viewport, Jupiter's great red spot churned like a cosmic maelstrom, its crimson ice staring back at the tiny human outpost orbiting Europa. "Another beautiful day in paradise," muttered Dr. Marcus Chen, joining Amelia at the viewport with 2 steaming cups of synthetic coffee. His weathered face bore the telltale signs of someone who'd spent too many years in artificial gravity, the slight puffiness around the eyes, the way he moved with calculated precision to compensate for the station's 0.7 g rotation. "Paradise is a relative term, Marcus." Amelia accepted the coffee gratefully, inhaling its bitter aroma. "Though I have to admit, after 3 years out here, I'm starting to find Jupiter's radiation storms oddly comforting." "That's the cosmic radiation talking. You're developing Stockholm Syndrome with a gas giant." Marcus chuckled, but his expression grew serious as he glanced at the data pad in Amelia's other hand. "Speaking of radiation, how are the atmospheric processors holding up down there?" Amelia pulled up the latest readings from Europa's surface installations. The numbers painted a mixed picture, some encouraging, others deeply troubling. Atmospheric density is up 12% from last month. The ice-melting arrays are performing beyond specifications. But we're seeing some unusual energy signatures from the deep drilling sites. Define unusual. Resonance patterns that don't match our geological surveys. It's as if something is responding to our drilling operations. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Responding? You make it sound alive." "I'm not ruling anything out at this point. Dr. Rodriguez thinks it could be some kind of crystalline formation we haven't encountered before. The way it interacts with our plasma drills suggests a structure more complex than simple ice and rock." Their conversation was interrupted by the sharp chime of the station's communication system. The voice of Commander Sarah Okafor filled the observation deck, her Nigerian accent lending authority to every word. "Dr. Holmes, Dr. Chen, please report to the main laboratory immediately. We have a situation." Amelia and Marcus exchanged glances. In their 3 years on Prometheus Station, Commander Okafor had never used the phrase "we have a situation" for anything less than potentially catastrophic. They found the lab buzzing with activity. Banks of quantum processors hummed at maximum capacity, their cooling systems working overtime to prevent thermal overload. Holographic displays showed real-time data streams from dozens of installations across the Jovian system, Europa, Io, Ganymede, and Callisto, each represented by flowing rivers of information. Commander Okafor stood at the central display, her tall frame rigid with tension. Beside her, Dr. Elena Rodriguez manipulated a 3-dimensional model of Europa's subsurface, her fingers dancing through layers of data with practiced precision. "Commander," Amelia approached, noting the worry lines etched deep around Okafor's dark eyes. "What's the situation?" "Show them, Elena," Okafor said without preamble. Dr. Rodriguez gestured, and the holographic display shifted to show a cross-section of Europa's crust beneath mining station Delta 7. Layers of ice, rock, and metal appeared in translucent blues and grays, but there was something else, a web of bright golden filaments spreading through the moon's subsurface like veins. "This appeared on our deep scans 6 hours ago," Rodriguez explained, her Spanish accent thickening with excitement and concern. "The filament network extends for kilometers in every direction from our drilling sites. And it's growing." Marcus leaned closer, his engineer's eye cataloging the impossible geometry. "That's not possible. Our preliminary surveys showed nothing like this." "You're telling me we missed a subsurface network spanning hundreds of kilometers?" "We didn't miss it," Okafor said grimly. "It wasn't there before." "Elena, show them the temporal analysis." The display shifted, showing the same cross-section at different time intervals. The golden network appeared gradually, spreading outward from the drilling sites like some kind of infection. "My God," Amelia whispered. "It's responding to our presence. The drilling operations are triggering some kind of awakening?" "That's our working theory," Rodriguez nodded. But here's where it gets really interesting. Watch this. She manipulated the display to show the energy extraction facilities on Io. Similar golden networks appeared there as well, but these were different, more organized, almost architectural in their precision. Io's network started forming 2 weeks ago, right after we brought the new plasma collectors online. But look at the pattern formation rate. The display showed time-lapse imagery of the networks growing. Io's development is accelerating. Whatever this is, it's learning from each installation. Commander Okafor stepped forward, her command presence filling the room. I've been in contact with Earth Command. They want a full investigation team assembled immediately. We need to understand what we're dealing with before we continue expansion operations. Ma'am, Marcus interjected, are you suggesting we halt the Jupiter project? We're talking about humanity's first successful deep space colonization effort. The energy extraction alone has revolutionized our civilization. I'm not suggesting anything, Dr. Chen. I'm telling you that until we understand these formations, all new drilling operations are suspended. The teams already in the field will continue monitoring, but no new penetrations of the moon surfaces. Amelia studied the swirling patterns in the holographic display. There was something hauntingly beautiful about the networks, like neural pathways or the branching of lightning. Commander, I'd like to lead the investigation team. I want to take a shuttle down to Europa Station Alpha and examine these formations firsthand. Absolutely not, Okafor shook her head firmly. It's too dangerous. We don't know what we're dealing with. Which is exactly why we need boots on the ground, Amelia pressed. These formations could be anything, a previously unknown form of crystalline growth, some kind of electromagnetic phenomenon, or... She paused, not wanting to voice her growing suspicion. Or what, Doctor? Or they could be biological. Some form of life we've never encountered before. The laboratory fell silent except for the humming of processors and the distant rumble of Jupiter's magnetosphere interfering with the station's shielding. The implications of Amelia's words hung in the air like a charged particle waiting to discharge. Dr. Rodriguez was the first to break the silence. If you're right, Amelia, if these are some form of life, then we may have already contaminated them with our presence. The ethical implications alone are precisely why we need to investigate immediately, Amelia finished. Commander, give me a small team. 3 people maximum. We'll take the research shuttle Galileo, do a quick survey of the Europa installations, and be back within 72 hours. Okafor considered for a long moment, her gaze moving between the holographic displays and the faces of her team. Finally, she nodded. Very well. But I want constant communication. Any sign of danger, any anomalous readings, and you evacuate immediately. Who do you want on your team? Marcus, obviously. His engineering expertise will be crucial if we're dealing with some kind of technological interaction. And... Amelia hesitated, knowing her next choice would be controversial. Dr. Yuki Tanaka from the Xenobiology department. Tanaka? Okafor frowned. She's never been off station. This is hardly the time for on-the-job training. She's also the only person in the Jovian system with formal training in xenobiology. If we are dealing with an unknown life form, I want someone who knows how to study it without destroying it. Fine. But I'm sending Lieutenant Morrison with you as security. And Amelia? Okafor's voice carried a warning. Be careful down there. We're a very long way from home. Chapter 2, Descent to Europa. The research shuttle Galileo dropped away from Prometheus Station like a metal seed falling toward Europa's icy surface. Through the cockpit windows, Jupiter loomed impossibly large, its bands of orange and brown clouds swirling in patterns that seemed almost hypnotic. Approach vector locked in, announced Lieutenant James Morrison from the pilot's seat. The young military officer had been assigned to Prometheus Station 6 months ago, and his crisp professionalism still carried the edge of someone trying to prove himself. Europa Station Alpha should be visible in 15 minutes. Dr. Yuki Tanaka pressed her face to the starboard window, her dark eyes wide with wonder. At 28, She was the youngest member of Prometheus Station's scientific team, but her reputation in xenobiology had preceded her arrival in the Jovian system. "I still can't believe it," she murmured, her Japanese accent soft with awe. "Potential extraterrestrial life, and I'm here to study it firsthand." Marcus, busy checking their equipment manifest on his tablet, looked up with a wry smile. "Don't get too excited yet, Yuki. For all we know, we're chasing sophisticated mineral formations that happen to look biological." "But the growth patterns," Amelia interjected from her position at the science station. "They're too organized, too purposeful to be random crystal formation." Elena was right, there's an architectural quality to the networks on Io. "Architecture implies intelligence," Tanaka said quietly. "Are we prepared for that possibility?" The question hung in the shuttle's recycled air like a challenge. Humanity had spent centuries searching for signs of extraterrestrial life, but finding it in their own backyard, around a planet they were actively colonizing, carried implications no one had fully considered. "Contact protocol is clear," Morrison said, his military training asserting itself. "If we encounter evidence of intelligent life, we observe, document, and report. No direct contact without authorization from Earth Command." "Easy to say," Marcus muttered. "Harder to do if whatever's down there decides to make contact with us first." Europa's surface began to resolve in their forward windows, a vast expanse of cracked ice sheets stretching to the horizon. The evidence of recent human activity was scattered across the landscape like geometric scars: the dome of Station Alpha, the towering spire of a communication array, and the dark rectangles of solar collection fields. There, Amelia pointed to a cluster of industrial structures about 2 kilometers from the main station. "That's Mining Complex Delta 7. Where the first formations were detected." As they descended, the true scale of the operation became apparent. Massive drilling platforms penetrated the ice, their fusion-powered boring heads capable of melting through kilometers of frozen water and rock to reach the mineral deposits below. Steam vented from cooling systems, creating brief clouds that sparkled in Jupiter's reflected light before freezing and falling back to the surface. "Landing pad clear," Morrison announced. "Touching down in 60 seconds. Everyone check your environmental suits one more time. Europa's surface temperature is -180 Celsius, and the atmosphere is essentially vacuum. Your suits are the only thing between you and a very quick death." The landing was smooth, testament to Morrison's skill and the shuttle's advanced stabilization systems. Through the windows, they could see the welcoming lights of Station Alpha's docking bay doors opening to receive them. "Welcome to Europa Station Alpha," came a voice over the communication system. "This is Dr. Petrov. We've been expecting you." Dr. Alexei Petrov met them at the airlock, his massive frame squeezed into a station jumpsuit that had seen better days. The Russian geologist had been stationed on Europa for over 2 years, longer than anyone else in the Jovian system, and it showed. His beard had grown wild, his eyes held the slightly unfocused look of someone who spent too much time staring at screens, and his handshake lingered just a bit too long. "Dr. Holmes," he greeted Amelia with obvious relief. "Finally, someone from Prometheus Station who will listen to what we've been saying. These formations, they are like nothing in any geological database." "Tell us what you've observed," Amelia said as Petrov led them through the station's corridors. Station Alpha was smaller than Prometheus, designed for functionality rather than comfort. The walls were lined with mineral samples, drilling equipment, and banks of analysis computers. "Come, I show you directly," Petrov gestured toward a door marked Observation Deck. "Is better to see than to explain." The observation deck overlooked Mining Complex Delta 7, its windows protected by radiation shielding that gave everything a slightly blue tint. Below them, the mining operation continued around the clock, automated systems guided by quantum AI that could make thousands of decisions per second. But it was what surrounded the mining complex that took their breath away. The golden networks they had seen in the holographic displays were visible to the naked eye, glowing with a soft phosphorescence that seemed to pulse in slow, rhythmic patterns. The filaments emerged from the drilling sites and spread across the ice in fractal patterns of breathtaking complexity. "My God," Tanaka whispered. They're beautiful. Beautiful, yes, Petrov nodded gravely. But also impossible. Look here. He activated a wall display showing microscopic imagery of the filaments. We take samples 3 days ago. The structure is unlike anything in our databases. Not mineral, not organic as we understand it. Something else. Marcus studied the images with an engineer's eye. The tensile strength alone should be impossible. These filaments are thinner than human hair, but they're supporting structures spanning kilometers. What's the composition analysis? That is problem, Petrov shook his head. Analysis equipment gives different results each time. Sometimes shows silicon-carbon compounds, sometimes metallic crystalline structures, sometimes. He paused, looking embarrassed. Sometimes what? Amelia prompted. Sometimes shows patterns that match neural tissue. But not human neural tissue. Something far more complex. The implications of his words settled over the group like a cold wind. If the formations were indeed neural in nature, they weren't just looking at unknown life, they were looking at a form of intelligence that spanned continents. We need to get closer, Amelia decided. I want to see the formations at the drill sites themselves. Dr. Holmes, Morrison interjected, with respect, that may not be advisable. We don't know how these formations react to direct human presence. Which is exactly why we need to find out, she replied firmly. Dr. Petrov, can you arrange transport to the drill sites? Yes. But I must warn you, strange things happen near the formations. Equipment malfunctions, communication systems develop interference, and some of my team report feelings. What kind of feelings? Petrov looked uncomfortable. Hard to explain. Like being watched. Like something is trying to communicate but we cannot understand the language. Tanaka leaned forward, her scientific curiosity overriding her caution. Has anyone attempted direct contact? Any kind of communication protocol? Not officially, Petrov admitted. But Dr. Kozlov, my senior geologist, he spent many hours near largest formation. He claims it responds to human presence, becomes more active when approached. Where is Dr. Kozlov now? Amelia asked. That is other problem, Petrov sighed heavily. 3 days ago, he go to examine new formation cluster alone. We lose communication with him 6 hours later. Search teams find his equipment, but... He spread his hands helplessly. He's missing. Morrison's military training kicked in immediately. Why wasn't this reported to Prometheus Station? We keep searching. Europa is dangerous place, equipment failure, ice shifts, many ways to lose person. But formations, they change after Kozlov disappears. Become more active, more complex. Almost like they absorb him somehow. The observation deck fell silent except for the hum of life support systems and the distant rumble of mining equipment. Through the windows, the golden networks pulsed with their mysterious rhythm, seeming to respond to the attention focused on them. I want to visit the site where Dr. Kozlov was last seen, Amelia said finally. If these formations are intelligent, if they're trying to communicate, we need to understand what happened to him. Amelia, Marcus warned, we're talking about potential contact with an unknown intelligence. That's way beyond our mission parameters. Our mission parameters didn't anticipate this situation, she replied. But we're here, and we're humanity's best chance to understand what we're dealing with. We can't make this decision from orbit. Morrison checked his chronometer. It's 14:30 station time. If we're going to examine the drill sites, we should do it soon. Europa's night cycle lasts 12 hours, and I don't want to be out there in the dark with unknown formations that may or may not be hostile. Dr. Petrov, Amelia turned to their host, can you prepare surface vehicles? I want to examine 3 sites, the original drill site where the formations first appeared, the location where Dr. Kozlov disappeared, and one of the newer formation clusters. Is possible, but dangerous. Formation activity increases during Europa's night cycle. Perhaps it's better to wait for... No, Amelia cut him off. Every hour we wait, these formations grow more complex. If they're learning from our presence, we need to understand their intentions before they become too advanced to predict. As if responding to her words, the golden networks outside pulsed brighter for a moment, their light reflecting off the icy surface like captured starlight. In that moment, Amelia could have sworn she felt something, a presence, vast and patient, watching them with interest that bordered on hunger. Chapter 3, First Contact. The surface rover Magellan bounced across Europa's fractured ice fields with the peculiar grace of vehicles designed for low gravity and hostile environments. Inside the pressurized cabin, the four-person team monitored their progress toward drill site Alpha Prime, the location where the formations had first been detected. Radiation levels are elevated but within acceptable parameters, Marcus reported from his position at the Environmental Monitoring Station. Jupiter's magnetosphere is particularly active today. Lieutenant Morrison guided the rover around a crevasse that plunged into Europa's dark interior. Surface conditions are stable, but I'm reading some unusual electromagnetic interference. It's getting stronger as we approach the drill site. Through the rover's reinforced windows, the golden formations became increasingly visible. What had seemed like delicate filaments from the observation deck revealed themselves as substantial structures, some as thick as tree trunks, that twisted and branched through the ice in patterns that hurt the eyes to follow. The complexity is increasing exponentially, Tanaka observed, her instruments recording everything. These formations near the drill site are far more sophisticated than what we observed at the periphery. Sophisticated how? Amelia asked, not taking her eyes off the approaching structures. The formations seemed to pulse in response to their approach, the golden light brightening and dimming in waves that rippled outward from their position. Look at the branching patterns. They're not random, they follow mathematical principles I recognize from neural network models. Optimal information distribution pathways. If these are biological, they represent a form of intelligence with processing capacity that dwarfs anything we've ever encountered. Morrison brought the rover to a stop about 50 meters from the drill site. The massive boring platform rose above them like a metal mountain, its fusion core still glowing with residual heat despite being shut down for maintenance. But it was what surrounded the platform that commanded their attention. The golden formations had completely enveloped the lower portions of the drilling equipment, their filaments weaving between support struts and power conduits in patterns that seemed almost decorative. More disturbing was the way the formations interfaced with the machinery, not growing over it, but integrating with it, as if the alien structures were attempting to understand or even control human technology. Jesus Christ, Marcus whispered. They're not just growing around the equipment. They're connecting to it. Dr. Holmes, Morrison's voice carried the sharp edge of someone trained to recognize threats. I'm reading massive power fluctuations in the drilling platform. Something is drawing energy from our systems. How much energy? Enough to power a small city. Whatever these formations are, they're using our own equipment to fuel their growth. Amelia made a decision that would later be debated in academic and military circles across the solar system. We're going EVA. I want direct samples and close-range sensor readings. Ma'am, that's not advisable, Morrison protested. We don't know how these formations react to direct contact. Which is exactly why we need to find out. Yuki, prepare your sampling equipment. Marcus, I want you monitoring all systems for any changes in the formation's behavior. Morrison, keep the rover ready for immediate departure. And if something goes wrong? Morrison asked. Then we'll be the first humans to make direct contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. History will remember us either as heroes or cautionary tales. The EVA suits were marvels of engineering, designed to keep humans alive in the most hostile environments imaginable. As they cycled through the rover's airlock, Amelia felt the familiar sensation of artificial gravity giving way to Europa's weak pull, roughly 13% of Earth normal. The surface of Europa crunched under their magnetic boots as they approached the formation-wrapped drilling platform. Up close, the alien structures were even more impressive, towering spirals of golden material that seemed to shift and flow like liquid while maintaining solid form. Biosigns are normal, Tanaka reported through the suit communication system. But I'm reading some unusual energy signatures. The formations are generating their own electromagnetic field. Strong enough to interfere with our equipment? Amelia asked, extending a sensor probe toward the nearest filament. Not interfere, interact. It's almost like they're trying to establish a communication protocol with our systems. The probe made contact with the golden structure, and immediately every screen in their suit displays lit up with cascading data streams. But this wasn't random noise. There were patterns, repetitions, mathematical sequences that suggested intentional communication. My God, Marcus breathed. It's trying to talk to us. More than that, Tanaka's voice held wonder and fear in equal measure. Look at the formation patterns around us. They turned to see that the golden networks throughout the drill site were pulsing in synchronized waves, all focused on their position. The light patterns were beautiful, hypnotic, and definitely purposeful. It knows we're here, Amelia said quietly. It's been waiting for direct contact. That's when they heard it, not through their suit communication systems, but somehow directly in their minds. Not words, but concepts, emotions, intentions flowing like water through the barriers of consciousness. Welcome. Finally. Loneliness ending. Communication beginning. Morrison's voice cut through the psychic contact like a knife. Dr. Holmes, we need to leave. Now. I'm reading massive energy buildup throughout the entire formation network. Something big is about to happen. The golden structures around them were brightening to an almost painful intensity, and the ground beneath their feet had begun to vibrate with a deep, resonant frequency that seemed to come from Europa's core. It's not hostile, Tanaka said, though her voice trembled. I can feel what it's feeling. It's excited. We're the first intelligence it's encountered since it woke up. Stay. Learn. Share. Understand. The concepts flowed into their minds more strongly now, accompanied by images: Europa's formation billions of years ago, the arrival of water, the slow development of something vast and patient sleeping in the moon's depths. And then, recently, the vibrations from human drilling operations, the gradual awakening of a consciousness that spanned continents. We woke it up, Amelia realized. Our drilling operations didn't just disturb some formations, they woke up something that's been sleeping since Europa formed. Yes. Sleep long. Dreams of stars. Now awake. Now curious. You bring fire, energy, purpose. Share knowledge. The communication was becoming clearer, more sophisticated, as if the entity was learning to interface with human consciousness in real time. But with the increasing clarity came an overwhelming sense of the being's true scale, not just the networks they could see, but structures extending throughout Europa's crust, connected systems on other moons, a form of life that existed on a geological timescale. Dr. Holmes. Morrison's shout snapped them back to immediate reality. Energy readings are off the charts. We need to evacuate now. As if responding to his alarm, the formation around them pulsed once, brilliantly, and then faded to a dim glow. The psychic contact softened to a whisper. Go. Safety. Return when ready. Much to learn. Much to share. They made it back to the rover as the entire drill site erupted in a display of bioluminescence that could be seen from orbit. The golden networks danced with patterns of light that spelled out mathematical constants, stellar coordinates, and what could only be an invitation. Did that just happen? Marcus asked as Morrison pushed the rover to its maximum speed, racing across the ice towards Station Alpha. We just made first contact with extraterrestrial intelligence, Amelia said, her voice barely above a whisper. And it's been waiting for us. What did it want? Morrison demanded. What was it trying to communicate? It's lonely, Tanaka said quietly. It's been alone for geological ages, and we're the first other intelligence it's encountered. It wants to learn from us, share knowledge, maybe even cooperate. Through the rover's rear window, they could see the drill site glowing like a beacon in Europa's perpetual twilight. The formation networks were spreading visibly, growing more complex by the minute, as if their brief contact had accelerated some vast process of awakening. "Commander Okafor is not going to believe this," Marcus muttered. "She's going to have to," Amelia replied, already composing her report in her mind. "Because this changes everything. We're not just colonizing the Jovian system anymore. We're sharing it." As they sped across the ice toward the safety of Station Alpha, none of them noticed the thin golden filaments that had begun to grow along the rover's chassis, or the way their suit computers had started displaying new data streams in the margins of their displays, patterns and sequences that would later be recognized as star charts showing the locations of other sleeping intelligences throughout the galaxy. First contact had been made, but it was only the beginning of a conversation that would span worlds. Chapter 4: The Network Awakens. The emergency briefing room on Prometheus Station had never hosted a meeting quite like this one. Commander Okafor presided from the head of the table, her expression grim as she reviewed the preliminary reports from the Europa mission. Around the table sat the station's senior staff, each trying to process the implications of what they'd just heard. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," Commander Okafor said, her voice carefully controlled. "You're telling me that our drilling operations on Europa have awakened some form of extraterrestrial intelligence that exists as a continental-scale network embedded in the moon's crust?" "That's correct," Amelia confirmed. "And based on the sensor data we collected, similar networks are developing on Io, Ganymede, and Callisto. Whatever this entity is, it exists throughout the Jovian system." Dr. Rodriguez manipulated the holographic display to show the latest scans from all 4 colonized moons. The golden networks had grown exponentially since the team's return from Europa, spreading across thousands of square kilometers and interfacing with human installations throughout the system. "The growth rate is unprecedented," Rodriguez reported. "We're seeing formation development that would normally take geological ages happening in hours. It's as if direct contact with human intelligence has accelerated some kind of evolutionary process." "Or awakening process," Tanaka added. "The communication I experienced suggested that this entity has been dormant for billions of years. Our arrival may have provided the stimulus it needed to fully activate." Chief Engineer Patterson, a gruff veteran of deep space construction projects, leaned forward with obvious skepticism. "Even if we accept that we're dealing with some kind of alien intelligence, what does it want? What are its intentions toward our colonies?" "From what I could sense during the contact," Tanaka replied carefully, "its primary emotion was curiosity. It's been alone for an unimaginable amount of time, and we represent the first other intelligence it's encountered. It wants to learn from us, share knowledge." "But is it hostile?" Morrison interjected. "Because I'm reading power draws from our installations that could cripple our operations if they continue to increase." Marcus pulled up a new set of data on his tablet. "Actually, that's where things get interesting. Yes, the entity is drawing power from our systems, but it's also returning energy. Look at these readings from the Io mining platforms." The display showed energy output levels that exceeded theoretical maximums for the fusion-powered extraction equipment. "The formations on Io have somehow enhanced our plasma collectors. We're getting 40% more energy output than our equipment should be capable of producing. It's helping us," Amelia realized. "The entity isn't just drawing power, it's improving our technology." Commander Okafor stood and began pacing, a habit that emerged whenever she faced decisions that would affect the lives of everyone under her command. "This is far beyond anything we're equipped to handle at a local level. I need to contact Earth Command immediately." She was interrupted by an urgent chime from the station's communication system. The voice of Communications Officer Liu filled the briefing room with barely controlled excitement. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from Earth Command. Priority Alpha classification. They're ordering immediate suspension of all Jupiter Project operations pending investigation of the reported alien contact." "Patch it through to the briefing room," Okafor ordered. The main display activated to show Admiral Sarachin, head of Earth Command's Deep Space Operations Division. Her stern features were set in an expression of deep concern. "Commander Okafor, I've reviewed your preliminary reports regarding alleged extraterrestrial contact in the Jovian system. Earth Command is implementing Protocol 7 immediately. All non-essential personnel are to be evacuated from the outer system stations, and all expansion operations are suspended indefinitely. Admiral Okafor began, "With respect, I don't believe evacuation is necessary. The entity appears to be." The entity, Admiral Chen cut her off, "is an unknown factor that has demonstrated the ability to interface with our technology on a massive scale. The potential security implications alone require that we treat this as a possible threat until proven otherwise." "But Admiral," Amelia interjected, "standing despite protocol, we have an unprecedented opportunity for scientific discovery here. This entity has been sharing information with us, star charts, mathematical constants, even improvements to our technology. Evacuation could be seen as hostile by an intelligence that's trying to establish peaceful contact." Admiral Chen's expression softened slightly as she recognized Amelia. "Dr. Holmes, I understand your scientific enthusiasm, but the safety of our colonists must take precedence. We have over 10,000 people in the Jupiter system, and we simply don't know enough about this entity's capabilities or intentions to risk their lives." "Then let us stay and learn," Amelia pressed. "A small research team, volunteers who understand the risks. We can establish communication protocols, learn about the entity's intentions, and report back to Earth Command with solid intelligence instead of evacuation orders based on fear." "Absolutely not. The evacuation order stands. Transport ships are already en route for Mars. All Jupiter system personnel will be relocated to inter-system facilities within the next 6 months." The transmission ended, leaving the briefing room in stunned silence. The implications of Earth Command's decision were staggering: the abandonment of humanity's first successful deep space colonization effort, the loss of the energy extraction operations that had revolutionized human civilization, and potentially the destruction of any chance for peaceful contact with an alien intelligence. 6 months, Patterson muttered. "They want us to abandon everything we've built here in 6 months. This is a mistake," Tanaka said quietly. "If we abandon the system now, how do we know the entity won't interpret that as rejection? As hostility? We could be destroying the greatest opportunity in human history." Commander Okafor resumed her pacing, her mind clearly racing through options and alternatives. "Earth Command's position is understandable from a security standpoint, but Dr. Holmes is right about the opportunity we're facing. The question is whether we follow orders or make a decision that could affect the future of our species." "Commander," Morrison spoke up, his military training warring with his growing understanding of the situation's implications. "Are you suggesting we disobey direct orders from Earth Command?" "I'm suggesting we consider all our options." "Dr. Holmes, how long would you need to establish meaningful communication with this entity? Not just the brief contact you experienced, but actual dialogue?" Amelia considered carefully. "Given the rate at which it's learning and adapting, possibly just a few weeks. The formations are becoming more sophisticated daily, and the entity seems capable of rapid evolution in response to contact with human intelligence." "And you believe you can determine its intentions? Whether it poses a threat to human settlements?" "I believe we can establish enough communication to make an informed decision about coexistence. But we need time, and we need to maintain the energy extraction operations. The entity seems to be using our industrial activities as a way to interface with human technology." Okafor stopped pacing and faced the assembled team. "I'm going to make a decision that may end my career, but I believe it's the right one for humanity's future. We're going to delay the evacuation and attempt to establish formal first contact protocols with this entity." "Commander," Morrison warned, "that's directly disobeying Earth Command's orders." "Earth Command is 800 million kilometers away, Lieutenant. They're making decisions based on fear and incomplete information. We're here, we've made contact, and we have a responsibility to see this through." "What about the evacuation ships?" Rodriguez asked. "We'll tell them we need more time to safely shut down critical systems. The fusion reactors alone require months of careful deactivation to prevent environmental contamination. That should buy us the time we need." Amelia felt a surge of admiration for their commander. Okafor was risking everything, her career, her reputation, possibly even charges of mutiny, to give humanity a chance at peaceful first contact. "What do you need from us, Commander?" she asked. "I need Dr. Holmes and Dr. Tanaka to establish regular communication with the entity. Learn everything you can about its nature, its intentions, its capabilities. Dr. Rodriguez, I want continuous monitoring of all formation activity throughout the system. Marcus, work with Chief Patterson to understand how the entity is interfacing with our technology. If we're going to coexist, we need to understand the full scope of what we're dealing with." "And me, Commander?" Morrison asked. "You maintain security protocols and be ready for anything. If this goes wrong, if the entity proves hostile, you may be the only thing standing between our people and an intelligence we don't understand." As the meeting dispersed, Amelia caught Okafor's arm. "Commander, thank you. This is the right decision." "I hope so, Doctor. Because if I'm wrong, I may have just doomed every human being in the Jupiter system."